So the only we need our political will and women not to be afraid of politics. Okay, let's go to the topic that I have to present: domestic and workplace violence, effects on national development. Let's think about our life. Our life is divided into two parts: our home and our work. We wake up in the morning, we go to work, we come back to home. So those two places we live are important life of our whole entire life. So quality of life in home and the workforce is creating our well-being. If we have a violent environment at home, violent environment in the work, what we have? We have low productivity, we have depression, we have low motivation, we have a lot of loss for national development. So it depends on us. We need to have home and work as pleasurable environment. We have a saying in Russia that a happy person is the one who wakes up joyfully in the morning, runs to work, and in the end of the day, he joyfully runs back to home to get recreation, to get rest at home. Home is our recreational center, you know. So if we have another quality, if we have a negative environment in our home, how we come to work? We come to work in distress, we are not productive, low motivation. So domestic violence at work by ILO was considered as taking ILO works, all the international agents, that those two types of violence become endemic in our world. And because of that, two major documents were signed off: 1998 Declaration on Fundamental Rights and Principles of Work, and 2008 Declaration on Social Justice for Fair Liberalization. The both documents saying about gender equality, non-discrimination, and fundamental principles of human rights at work and social protection. But we have a huge challenge. When I was given that task to do the research, what I found out: lack of research, lack of data. You can't find any data, let alone Nigeria, on workplace violence. What is the cause? We can find some documents on domestic violence, something, but what about violence at work, which is endemic, which has endemic nature? So we have definitions. Don't want to stop longer. Workforce violence is about violence happens at workplace. Violence may have form of abuse, mobbing, harassment, injuries, threatening. Same type of violence may happen in home. That's performed by a family member towards another family member. And most of the time, the victims of domestic violence are women, 80%, but not to forget, 20% of victims of domestic violence are men. We need to think about it. So, now, how much it costs for national development? Does it cost anything? Again, research is scarce, lots of controversy, how to estimate the cost for national development, but some pictures that is huge, enormous cost. So from 1 to up to 3%. Loss of GDP because of workplace violence, because of domestic violence, it's up to 1 or 2%. So what's the linkages between domestic violence and workforce violence? Imagine domestic violence, you are in the hostile environment, how you're going to work in the morning? You are depressed, or you may be taking leave because of the health condition. So because of absenteeism, stress, psychological trauma, and low motivation at work, the productivity of organization decreases. Also, domestic violence traumatizes children. If it's homicide, children are orphans. So again, majority of victims are women, and 20% are men. So domestic violence has harmful impact on the victims that consequently withdraws those victims from paid work, limiting income, disturbing entire family life. Some countries done research. Those are victims of violence, and you can see that if 1 out of 3 women indicated domestic violence as a place for, for injury or stress, half of men indicated violence by strangers. So they are also victims of violence, but not specifically in home, but outside of the home. So many victims of workplace violence, not only at home, but working in the night shift in the stores. As we see, we hear lots of news when the store staff were attacked by the robbers. Men work in male-dominated areas like law enforcement, militaries, prisons. I work with Syrian refugees, and the ladies were saying me their life. They lost their husbands because they were killed, and their sons who were taken by ISIS into the military force, militia force. So this is also the place for violence against men. IDPs. Now we have witnessed a huge crisis of these migrants, and they are placed in refugee camp, and IDPs here in Nigeria, we have this also in the north. So in IDPs, where the law, system of law is not working, the boys and the men, they are subjects for violence. So now, what the forms of workplace violence? It ranges from threats and verbal abuse to physical assault, even homicide. But most of the prevalent violence is psychological violence, bullying, harassment, mobbing, intimidation. It affects employees, it affects all environment, clients, family members. Also, workplace violence can happen when you go home, not specifically to work, but when you go late night home, or then coming back, going to work, in public transportation. So that is happening, and unfortunately, lack of, again, attention to that type of violence is given. Psychological violence is prevalent, but as we see physical violence, but we don't see psychological violence most of the time. So, and I believe that most of us familiar with workplace violence. Myself, I worked in several organizations as a consultant. I was a witness. I witnessed how people may be attacked, may be mobbed, may be harassed in the work environment. If you've been in that environment, you may notice what is happening, why this is happening, and you may have an answer. Sometimes, and most of the times, it's environment, organizational environment, and most of the times it's managerial style. Lack of management skills, lack of understanding, and not acknowledging that the violence at work brings damage to the organization and decreases profit. So for all of us, the elimination of violence at work is for our good. So, as I mentioned you, and when I worked in Soviet Union, trade union system was very strong in each organization. Trade union representing the voice of workers. Where there is no trade union, which is now happening in nowadays, there is no trade union system, it collapsed after Soviet Union. When there is no system that prevents the violence at the workplace increase, incidents of violence increase, and there is no system to prevent it. So, as I mentioned, damage of workplace violence is enormous. It leads to GDP 1 to 3%. It damages reputation, it damages morale of the people. If it's not prevented, if it's not taken care of. So here, one of the major form of workplace violence is mobbing and bullying. You know, it's a group of workers targeting an individual for psychological harassment. This is mobbing definition. You know, in the European Union, there's a study of 2002 where they found a huge rate of this type of harassment, this type of violence. In Germany, more than 800,000 workers were victims of mobbing. In Spain, 22% of officials in public administration were victims of mobbing. In France, the number of acts of aggression against transport workers, including taxi cab drivers, rose from 3,051 in 2001 to 3,155 in 2002. So, and here, you see the poster that in Australia, where they started this campaign against violence at work. This is a poster about bullying. The poster says that 1 in 8 children or young people or school children, they experience mobbing in their environment, in schools. So what is about violence and bullying? You know, it's degrading of human dignity. The children or young people, they may get into distress, depression, and they even may commit suicide. Another poster, it's in Canada. They also advocate against violence at work. They say their studies show that 3 out of 4 reports, they were women. Again, workplace violence takes toll on women. Majority of victims are women. 3 out of 4 in this research. But men indicated that most of the time they were cases of honest management and they need to involve money and decrease of payment. So what the outcomes we have? Stress, frustration, people suffer, people have health conditions, deterioration, even commit suicide. But organization is the same. Loss of productivity, stress, damaged image and reputation of the company. So again, costs. USA study shows that 1 incident of workplace violence takes cost up to 300,000 USD. Loss of productivity costs almost 40 billion USD. Lots of absenteeism from work. Domestic violence also caused absentees for 125,000 days, and cost of homicide up to 1 million. Now, one of the forms of workplace violence is economic exploitation. We are witnessing nowadays as a huge trend, as a huge endemic situation. Forced labor, migrants, IDPs are the powerless people with lack of law legislation. They are targeted for that economic exploitation. And ILO estimates all over the world 21 million people are in that type of work. Women who are in that economic exploitation, most of them are in commercial sex and domestic workers. Men primarily in working in agriculture, construction, and mining. So why forced labor so happens? Because it brings a lot of illegal profit, up to $150 billion per year. Child labor as well is also economic exploitation. Children cannot defend themselves because of their age, of their physical condition. And UNICEF, our data suggests that in Nigeria, 57% boys and girls between 5 and 11 years old, they are in that child labor. As I mentioned, migration is a factor for violence in the workplace. Majority of them in Europe, the migration from Africa and other countries. In Africa, migration from rural to urban area, and those exploitations are happening. So, domestic workers. I wanted to bring you example of my friend. After collapse of the Soviet Union, a lot of women lost their jobs, lost of the system of support, social policy, social protection system also collapsed. So most of them went to abroad to work in countries like Italy, Spain, Greece, and other countries. So she went to Spain. It's illegal. She paid money for somebody to find her a job. So she had a family of 8 children. So what happened? So this family placed her she had a bed around somewhere in the storage room with lots of cockroaches. They didn't give her enough food, so she worked like around 16 hours. She got sick. After 1 month, she was kicked off the house without pay. So during the night, in the middle of night, she was on the street. Where to go? No system, no nothing, no money. So, but Spain has a kind of little system of support those illegal immigrants. They have a shelter, they have kind of kitchen that they can survive there. So she found that place, she stayed there. So she worked for 10 years there. Finally, Spain adopted a law protecting those domestic workers, but this law even more restricted these women into the house. The law didn't give any kind of relief to those workers. They even stayed more in the house, not having the possibility to go out, no rest days. They even restricted. After 10 years, she came back home. She's now back home, but now lots of health conditions. She needs to get the mental and the physical treatment. So done with domestic workers, which brings lots of profit to the countries where those women work. So prevention. Let's speak a bit about prevention. Workplace violence is man-made disaster, so we can prevent. What should be done? We look at the countries where this issue is taken into consideration. Of course, legislation to be put in place. Of course, trade union is a system that can protect. Of course, countries should provide culture of non-violence in the workplace. And of course, gender equality process. USA study in America, they show that if there is a system that prevents domestic violence and workplace violence, so productivity would rise enormously. And change starts with us. You know, when we work, when we understand, we need to promote non-violent culture. We need not to be tolerant to violence when we see that. When we see how a colleague is harassed or abused, we cannot stay tolerant. We need to take action, to report, and to bring it to the consideration of management, and to protect your colleague and yourself. Now, what about Nigeria? What about domestic violence and the violence in the workplace? As I mentioned, no data, almost non-existent data. So we need to think, gender economists can take this as the focus of their research. But several studies suggest that violence is endemic in public institutions, especially in police force and schools. Sexual harassment, including demanding sexual favors in return for employment or grades, is considered to be widespread. And in domestic violence, majority of perpetrators are husbands. And luckily, in 2015, Nigeria adopted the Violence Against Person Act, which prohibits all forms of violence against persons, spousal, battery, forceful ejection from home, forced financial dependence or economic abuse, harmful widow practices, female circumcision, substance attacks, such as race, political violence, and violence by state actors, especially government security forces. Now, what we should do? We should act to be domesticated by all states and to be introduced in reality in our life. So what happens in reality? Rape is punishable by life imprisonment. Reality is different because the legal system doesn't provide any support for women who are subject to violence. Why? Women not just simply don't report that. Time-consuming, degrading process of proving rape, pain and shame, revealing that experience, pressure to keep silent, blaming, and stigma. What I want to do, there is a study of nurses that they are the group which most highest incidence of type of nurses in the hospitals. It is, but it is all over the world now, in my country as well. So we need to think about that global population. I wanted to bring you some results of gender perception of good, in quotation, violence done by a survey of my agency where I work, UNICEF, and other NGOs called Voice for Change. So, 45% of women believe a husband is justified in beating his wife in various circumstances. And highest rate for Benue and Cross River State, lowest rate in FCT and Kwara. Also, men and women equally agree, even two-thirds of women and men who were asked, that women should tolerate violence in order to keep the family together. 28% women believe that FGM, female genital mutilation, should be continued. Highest rate in Ido, Ikiti, Katsina, Kwara, and lowest rate in Akwa, Gombe, Taraba. Also, 31% of men and 38% women agreed early marriage is important and should remain. Violence in school. 91% of children were subject to any violent discipline. 61% of mothers believe that children should be physically punished. And corporal punishment in school was widely reported by 80% of men and 71% of female that they were beaten in school, physically punished by teaching school. And 28% of respondents reported being sexually assaulted as children. Conclusion. Perceptions of good violence create conducive environment for abuse to be reproduced in household, work, communities, particularly towards females. So we need to think about how we can dismantle those perceptions as one way towards reduction of domestic violence and workplace violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Venera Zakirova, for that very fantastic presentation, domestic